La Cour, the court.
Bonjour, s'il vous plaît, vous asseoir. Bonjour et bienvenue à toutes et à tous. Je suis ravi que vous ayez pu vous joindre à nous pour souhaiter officiellement une chaleureuse bienvenue à notre nouvelle collègue, Madame la juge Mary Moreau. Nous avons l'honneur d'avoir avec nous aujourd'hui l'honorable Arif Virani, ministre de la Justice et procureur général du Canada, the Honorable Mickey Amery, Minister of Justice of Alberta, Mr. John Stefaniuk, President of the Canadian Bar Association, Mr. Bill Ensby, President of the Law Society of Alberta, Ms. Erin Kleisinger, President of the Federation of Law Societies, and Mrs. Dominique Assé, President of the Advocate Society. Je souhaite en outre la bienvenue aux juges à la retraite de la Cour, aux nombreux juges en chef, distingués membres de la magistrature et invités qui sont ici avec nous. Je tiens également à souhaiter la bienvenue à la famille et aux amis de la juge Moreau, tout spécialement son époux, Peter Royal, et à leurs enfants, Pierre, Paul, Émilie et Joe. Today's ceremony is being webcast live, like we do for all court proceedings. I am pleased to welcome you into the courtroom. This is your court, and this ceremony allows all of us to get to know Justice Moreau. It is also a chance for everyone to better understand the role of the court. That's a key part of what we do here, education and outreach on the role of the judiciary. That work is essential to strengthen public confidence in the court system and the administration of justice. Justice Moreau's appointment is the culmination of an independent, open, and nonpartisan nomination process. It's a process that exists to preserve and enhance judicial independence. As judges, we are independent and impartial. We make decisions based on the law and the facts, free from undue external influence. Au moment où les sociétés occidentales, dites démocratiques, peinent à contenir les régimes totalitaires et tyranniques, pour toutes sortes de raisons, il est primordial pour les tribunaux de donner l'exemple en toute transparence. I'm happy you have taken time today to join us and experience firsthand how the court operates. Alors, sans plus tarder, commençons. Madame la registraire, je vous inviterai à lire la commission sous le grand sceau du Canada dans les 2 langues officielles, attestant la nomination de l'honorable juge Moreau à titre de juge puné de la Cour suprême du Canada.
Monsieur le juge en chef, Mesdames et Messieurs les juges, Madame la juge Moreau. Canada, Charles III, par la grâce de Dieu, roi du Royaume-Uni, du Canada et de ses autres royaumes et territoires, chef du Commonwealth et défenseur de la foi. À l'honorable Marie T. Moreau, juge en chef de la Cour du banc du roi de l'Alberta. Salut. En raison de notre confiance particulière en votre loyauté, en votre intégrité et en vos capacités, nous, sur et avec l'avis de notre Conseil privé pour le Canada, vous constituons et nommons-vous, Marie T. Moreau, juge puné de la Cour suprême du Canada. À titre de juge puné de la Cour suprême du Canada, vous, Marie T. Moreau, jouirez désormais à titre inamovible de tous les pouvoirs, droits, prérogatives, bénéfices, émoluments et avantages attachés de droit et de par la loi à cette charge. En foi de quoi, nous avons fait délivrer nos présentes lettres patentes et y avons fait apposer le Grand Sceau du Canada. Témoin, notre très fidèle et bien-aimée Marie-May Simon, chancelière et compagnon principal de notre Ordre du Canada, chancelière et commandeur de notre Ordre du Mérite militaire, chancelière et commandeur de notre Ordre du Mérite des corps policiers, gouverneur général et commandante en chef du Canada. À notre hôtel du gouvernement, en notre ville d'Ottawa, ce 30e jour de novembre de l'an de grâce 2023, deuxième de notre règne, par ordre registraire général du Canada et procureur général du Canada. Canada, Charles III, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom, Canada is in other realms and territories, King, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. To the Honorable Mary T. Moreau, Chief Justice of the Court of King's Bench of Alberta. Greeting. Know you that reposing special trust and confidence in your loyalty, integrity, and ability, we, by and with the advice of our Privy Council for Canada, do hereby constitute and appoint you, Mary T. Moreau, a puisne judge of the Supreme Court of Canada, to have, hold, exercise, and enjoy the office of a puisne judge of the Supreme Court of Canada, unto you, Mary T. Moreau, with all the powers, rights, authority, privileges, profits, emoluments, and advantages unto that office of right, and by law appertaining during your good behavior. In testimony whereof we have caused these our letters to be made patent, and the Great Seal of Canada to be hereunto affixed. Witness, our right trustee and well-beloved Mary-May Simon, Chancellor and Principal Companion of our Order of Canada, Chancellor and Companion of our Order of Military Merit, Chancellor and Commander of our Order of Merit of the Police Forces, Governor General, and Commander-in-Chief of Canada. At our Government House of our city in Ottawa, this 30th day of November, in the year of our Lord 2023, and in the second year of our reign, by command Registrar General of Canada and Attorney General of Canada.
La juge Moreau à se joindre à l'enregistraire et à signer le registre des documents de cérémonie. Merci. Alors, Madame la juge Moreau, je vous inviterai à prendre place sur votre siège au sein de la formation de la Cour suprême du Canada. La première fois que j'ai rencontré la juge Moreau, c'était dans le cadre des activités de l'Association canadienne des juges des cours supérieures, il y a de cela de nombreuses années. Nous nous sommes instantanément bien entendus. Et je me rappelle le soin particulier avec lequel la juge Moreau considérait les défis et les difficultés auxquels sont confrontés les juges, ainsi que son sens de la justice et de l'équité. J'ai tout de suite éprouvé du respect à son égard. Et j'ai su très tôt dans ma carrière judiciaire qu'elle serait un modèle à émuler. Nous avons renoué des années plus tard, en 2017, au sein du Conseil canadien de la magistrature, où durant les 6 années qui ont suivi, notre énergique consoeur s'est investi dans le comité sur les congés d'études, le comité sur la technologie, le comité sur la conduite des juges et le comité exécutif. Je n'ai pas eu la chance de connaître la juge Moreau lors de ses études, mais je soupçonne qu'elle a toujours été une étudiante modèle. S'il y a des gens parmi vous qui peuvent en témoigner, je serais très intéressé d'en apprendre davantage. And then, in March of 2020, the entire world went into a lockdown. While courts across the country struggled to shift to virtual hearings, amend their practice rules, and manage their dockets, Justice Moreau, then Chief Justice of the Court of King's Bench of Alberta, had the foresight to champion a proactive approach to change. Holding a news conference in early April of that year, she said, and I quote, "We are becoming more proficient in a remote world. The tragedy of the crisis has led to the urgency of putting into place some IT solutions, which will be in place for the long pull and affect some really fundamental changes in how we do our work in the court," end quote. In the face of this public health crisis, she successfully made the Alberta court system more efficient and accessible. Puis j'ai de nouveau eu le plaisir de travailler aux côtés de la juge Moreau en mai 2020, lorsqu'elle est devenue une membre clé et une voix importante au sein du comité d'action sur l'administration des tribunaux en réponse à la COVID-19. Un comité que l'ancien ministre de la Justice et procureur général du Canada, Maître David Lamery, et moi-même avons mis sur pied afin de remédier aux effets de la pandémie sur notre système de justice à court, moyen et long terme. Comme bon nombre d'entre vous s'en souviennent sûrement, durant cette période sombre, le fait de voir un visage amical et familier, aussi petite que fut l'image sur l'écran de notre ordinateur, avait quelque chose de réconfortant. Travailler avec la juge Moreau est très facile et naturel, et son engagement envers la modernisation des tribunaux a permis de fournir de précieuses ressources à ceux-ci durant la pandémie. Notre comité d'action a évolué. Son mandat a été modifié, mais demeure une organisation nationale qui fait montre de leadership en fournissant des orientations non seulement sur la façon de moderniser nos tribunaux, mais aussi sur les moyens d'améliorer l'accès à la justice, tout en reflétant la diversité des opinions. La contribution de la juge Moreau a été cruciale dans cette évolution, jusqu'à sa nomination à notre cour. La modernisation des tribunaux n'est pas le seul domaine dans lequel notre nouvelle collègue a œuvré pour améliorer l'administration de la justice. L'une de ses contributions les plus importantes à ce chapitre est sans doute l'avancement des droits linguistiques des communautés minoritaires francophones, particulièrement en Alberta. To understand Justice Moreau's passion for the French language, I think it's important to provide additional context about her family. While she might not have followed the family tradition of going to medical school, thankfully for us, she did follow in her father's footsteps of being a passionate French language advocate in Alberta. I have learned that he even has a school named after him in Edmonton for his work advancing French language education, l'École Joseph Moreau, which I understand students affectionately refer to as JOMO. After a legal training at the University of Alberta, which included time studying Quebec's civil law system at the University de Sherbrooke, the young lawyer was well positioned to take on a number of interesting cases during her time in private practice. She even argued 2 of these cases, Paquette and Mahé, before the Supreme Court of Canada, in the same room we find ourselves in today. Ces années-là ont certes été une période bien remplie pour vous, Madame la juge, et vous avez su en accomplir beaucoup. C'est d'ailleurs à cette époque, vers la fin des années 80 et au début des années 90, que vous avez fondé votre propre cabinet avec Richard Rand et cofondé l'Association des juristes d'expression française de l'Alberta. Entre les réunions parents-enseignants, vous avez également agi comme vice-présidente de la section nationale des juristes d'expression française de Common Law à l'Association du barreau canadien, comme présidente de la Criminal Trial Lawyers Association, comme membre puis présidente de l'Edmonton Legal Aid Committee et enfin comme membre du conseil d'administration de l'hebdomadaire albertain, le Franco. Avec une expérience aussi impressionnante, il n'est pas surprenant que vous ayez réussi à devenir juge, et ça dès le jeune âge de 38 ans. Dans la salle d'audience, vous avez rapidement acquis la réputation d'être une juge juste et équitable. Les procureurs qui comparaissaient devant vous ont appris qu'ils devaient être bien préparés, car vous leur démontriez que vous connaissiez leur argumentation aussi bien qu'eux. Par ailleurs, j'ai remarqué que vous avez également été entraîneuse de basketball durant vos premières années au sein de la magistrature. De la Cour de justice au court de basketball, ma foi, il faut le faire. Et ce ne sont pas uniquement les personnes qui ont comparu devant vous en salle d'audience qui ont profité de vos 30 années de carrière comme juge. En effet, tant vos collègues de la magistrature que les membres de la communauté juridique ont eux aussi bénéficié de votre dévouement à l'avancement de la profession. À ce sujet, j'aimerais parler brièvement de votre approche en matière de sensibilisation du public ainsi que de votre travail à l'échelle internationale. I often say that it's hard for the public to trust something they don't understand. Justice cannot be served behind closed doors, and public confidence in our work is foundational to the success of the judicial system and indeed our democracy. I know we share the same views on the importance of outreach and education. In fact, early on in your tenure as Chief Justice of the Court of King's Bench of Alberta, you hired a dedicated media advisor to enhance your communications efforts. When I met with a network of Canadian court communications officers last April, I was very happy to see representatives from Alberta, and indeed most provinces, sitting around the same table. Their work to enhance the openness and transparency of courts across the country is extremely valuable to Canadians, which is something you recognized early on. Le Canada est reconnu internationalement pour son ouverture, son respect de la primauté du droit et l'indépendance de sa magistrature. D'ailleurs, la juge Moreau sait cela d'expérience, du fait de son travail dans de nombreux pays, désireux d'apprendre de la magistrature canadienne. Collaborant de près avec le commissariat à la magistrature fédérale, vous avez établi des programmes de partenariat avec la Mongolie et l'Ukraine. Grâce à votre engagement personnel, des juges étrangers ont ainsi pu se familiariser avec l'approche du Canada en ce qui concerne l'indépendance de la magistrature, la déontologie judiciaire et les communications avec le public. Vous pouvez être fiers du rôle que vous avez joué dans la formation de la magistrature dans des démocraties émergentes à travers le monde. Je tiens de sources sûres que des membres du Conseil canadien de la magistrature, de l'Institut national de la magistrature et du commissariat à la magistrature fédérale sont attristés de vous perdre comme collègues. Comme nous toutes et tous, je sais qu'ils sont très fiers de vous. Je veux donc les rassurer. Les talents de la juge Moreau continueront d'être judicieusement mis à profit. I would like to extend my special thanks to Justice Moreau's family, because by now, I am sure you have seen that this work is demanding. Your support will be instrumental to our success here, and I want to acknowledge how much my colleagues and I appreciate your sacrifice in lending her to us. During Justice Moreau's swearing-in ceremony as Chief Justice of the Court of Queen's Bench of Alberta in 2017, former Chief Justice of Alberta, Cathy Fraser, said, and I quote, "Mary is a true leader. She does not just ask how and when, she asks what and why. She does not just invite the views of others, she actually listens to what they have to say. She does not just do things right, she does the right things. And she does this all with good humor and grace." End quote. Je conclurai par une dernière observation. Depuis que vous êtes juge, soit depuis tout près de 30 ans, les Albertains et Albertaines ont pu profiter de votre sagesse, de votre bonté et de votre expertise. Je suis heureux de dire que dorénavant, ce sera la population canadienne tout entière qui pourra bénéficier de ces admirables qualités durant les années où vous siégerez au sein de la Cour suprême du Canada. Au nom de mes collègues, du personnel de la Cour, ainsi que des Canadiens et Canadiennes de partout au pays, permettez-moi, Madame la juge Moreau, de vous souhaiter la plus cordiale bienvenue dans votre nouvelle salle d'audience. Merci. Je vais maintenant demander au ministre de la Justice et procureur général du Canada, l'honorable Arif Virani, de prononcer quelques mots.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le juge en chef Wagner, Justices, Madam Justice Moreau, distinguished guests. And on this family day, I am delighted that your family is here. They are accompanied by my two sons, who are here as well, Madam Justice. And I'm sure they would be very curious about your legal past, but particularly curious about your basketball coaching experience. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. It is a great pleasure to be with you today to officially welcome the Honourable Marie Moreau to the Supreme Court of Canada bench. My warmest congratulations to you, Madam Justice Moreau, on this well-deserved and highly distinguished honour. La nomination d'une nouvelle membre au plus haut tribunal du pays est une occasion très importante. La Cour suprême du Canada est une institution judiciaire reconnue dans le monde entier pour son intégrité et son indépendance, comme a été souligné par vous, Monsieur le juge en chef. En plus de 150 ans d'existence, la Cour a été le lieu de nombreux événements marquants et historiques. La cérémonie d'aujourd'hui en est un parfait exemple. Pour la première fois dans l'histoire de notre pays, la majorité des juges qui siègent à la Cour suprême du Canada sont des femmes. C'est remarquable. It has been a long journey to this point. More than 40 years since the Honourable Bertha Wilson became the first woman appointed to this bench in 1982. In so doing, Madam Justice Wilson helped open doors and empower generations of women lawyers and judges who have followed her. Justice Moreau was called to the bar just 2 years before that historic moment. Perhaps it inspired that young Albertan lawyer to dream about a future that was only limited by her own imagination and her own determination. And indeed, Justice Moreau has been a trailblazer throughout her career. As a Franco-Albertan, as we heard the Chief Justice underscore, she was at the forefront of advocating for the rights of official language minority communities. Her role as counsel in Mahe contre Alberta is very notable. I think she's actually developed something of a hero status amongst French jurists across the country. And I mention this, Madam Justice Moreau, because I was in Winnipeg just a few days ago, meeting with a number of individuals and groups, including l'Association des juristes d'expression française du Manitoba. When I mentioned that I was coming to this swearing-in, your swearing-in, they almost broke out into applause. Such was their awe in which you are held. Justice Moreau was the first woman and the first Francophone appointed as Chief Justice of the Alberta Court of King's Bench, and now she helps form, as I mentioned, the first majority female Supreme Court of Canada bench in our country's history. Juriste respectée à tous égards, la juge Moreau possède plus de 4 décennies d'expertise en matière de droit pénal, civile, familiale et commerciale, dont une trentaine d'années en tant que juge. Reconnu pour son éthique de travail exceptionnelle et sa grande modestie, le juge Moreau s'est aussi très impliqué dans sa communauté juridique et le milieu judiciaire. But beyond the leadership she has shown as a Chief Justice, she has demonstrated a deep and sustained devotion to judicial education, administration, and conduct. We heard that mentioned on many instances by the Chief Justice. And this has been both on an international level as well as here in Canada. Of particular note, she's been an active and respected member of the Action Committee on Modernizing Court Operations, which I have the honor to continue co-chairing with Chief Justice Wagner. Somme toute, la juge Moreau est une personne et une juriste exemplaire. Son intégrité, son sens de l'équité, sa passion pour le droit et son grand professionnalisme seront des atouts tant pour ses collègues au sein de la Cour que pour l'ensemble de la population canadienne. Madame le juge Moreau, je vous présente de nouveau mes plus sincères félicitations pour votre nomination. In this role, I have absolute confidence you will help shape our justice system for the future, putting people at the center of our responses and seeking to leave no one behind. As a lawyer, let me say thank you for giving me the opportunity to dust off these barrister's robes. As a father, thank you for actually providing me with a teachable moment for those two boys that are sitting in the back row. Too often, these majestic institutions are shrouded in mystique and somewhat impenetrable for lay Canadians. In getting to know an actual Supreme Court jurist, my hope is that my young sons will learn a little bit more about this court and the vital role that it plays in our democracy. Madame le juge Moreau, je n'ai aucun doute que dans ce nouveau chapitre de votre carrière que vous avez récemment décrit comme étant fascinant, vous défendez les principes qui vous ont amené à occuper ce poste prestigieux et que votre contribution à la Cour suprême du Canada sera significative et durable. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. I will now invite the Honourable Mickey Amery, Minister of Justice of Alberta, to address the Court.
Thank you, Chief Justice Wagner. Justices of the Court, honored guests, and all those in attendance, both online and in person, good morning. It is a great honor for me to be here today to join the celebration of a remarkable person in the Canadian judiciary, a justice with an exceptional career who is also an immense source of pride for Alberta. Today I am proud to honor our esteemed colleague and celebrate the appointment of Justice Mary Moreau to the Supreme Court of Canada. Allow me to inform the Court a little about what I know of Justice Mary Moreau. Born in Edmonton, Alberta, Justice Moreau is an Albertan through and through, and her journey is one of dedication, compassion, and unwavering commitment to justice. She embarked on her academic journey at the University of Alberta and completed her Bachelor of Laws degree in 1979. Admitted to the Alberta Bar in 1980, her legal expertise include criminal law, constitutional law, and civil litigation. Justice Moreau's career has been nothing short of extraordinary. She stands as the first Francophone nominee from the West to be appointed to the Supreme Court of Canada. Before arriving at the Supreme Court, Justice Moreau's career led her to become a Justice of the Court of King's Bench of Alberta, or as it was once known, the Court of Queen's Bench in 1994. Her influence extended beyond provincial borders, serving as a deputy judge in the Yukon Territory in 1996 and the Northwest Territories in 2005. I am sure the judicial committees in the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories would be just as proud as we are right now. In October 2017, she etched her name in history, becoming the first woman appointed to lead the Alberta Court of King's Bench, a milestone that resonates deeply with us all. Justice Moreau has been a visionary leader in driving the digitization and modernization of our courts. Her forward-thinking approach has not only streamlined court processes, but also paved the way for a more efficient and accessible justice system. Chief Justice spoke about Justice Mary Moreau's leadership during the pandemic, and that leadership was essential. Her adaptive and agile strategies during the challenging times of COVID-19 ensured that the Court of King's Bench remained operational, guaranteeing access to justice for all. It also paved the way to Alberta's shift to digitizing our courts, and today, millions of Albertans can access their court systems from anywhere. Acknowledging her unparalleled contributions, the University of Alberta conferred upon her an honorary Doctor of Laws in 2019. Moreover, she received Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee Medal, awarded by Lieutenant Governor of Alberta in 2022. Now, I could go on and on about Justice Moreau's many career accomplishments, but I also want to talk a little bit about what I think sets her apart. Her exceptional qualities as a person, her passion, and her leadership on the national and international stage are important. I've had the privilege of interacting with her on many occasions, and I can attest to her warmth, her kindness, and her genuine compassion. Beyond her legal achievements, her humility and dedication shine through, making her not just an outstanding judge, but also an outstanding person. She has dedicated her time to global initiatives, educating judges in underdeveloped countries and advocating for diversity and inclusion. And her involvement in national and international judicial education initiatives in Mongolia, in Colombia, Ukraine, Morocco, Mexico, Haiti, and many more reflect on her true dedication to fostering legal expertise on a global scale. Justice Moreau has also made an impact on the Canadian legal landscape, serving as president of the Canadian Superior Courts Judge Association and chair of the Judicial Advisory Committee for Military Judge Appointments. Justice Moreau's commitment to judicial education, administration, and ethics is simply exemplary. Her recent appointment to the Supreme Court of Canada is a testament to a career marked by excellence and dedication. And though Alberta is sorry to see you go, I cannot think of a better place for you to be. This achievement is not just a personal triumph for Justice Moreau, but it is indeed a triumph for all of Alberta and indeed Canada's entire legal community as well. Justice Moreau's journey from Edmonton to the highest court in the land serves as an inspiration, reflecting the strength and quality of Alberta's legal community. I stand before all of you, beaming with pride, as we all welcome Justice Mary Moreau to the Supreme Court of Canada. On behalf of Albertans, we extend our heartfelt congratulations to Justice Mary Moreau. May her tenure on the Supreme Court of Canada be as impactful and impressive as her journey so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I would like now to invite Mr. Stefaniuk, President of the Canadian Bar Association, to speak.
Monsieur le juge en chef du Canada, members of the court, Monsieur le ministre de la Justice du Canada, Minister of Justice of Alberta, distinguished members of the judiciary, ministers, colleagues, honored guests. It is a great privilege to be here today to honor Madam Justice Moreau on behalf of the almost 40,000 members of the Canadian Bar Association. Congratulations on your appointment to the Supreme Court of Canada. Comme plusieurs l'ont déjà mentionné, votre nomination est historique. As a Manitoban, I'm especially pleased to congratulate a fellow prairie folk on making history today, and you've tipped the gender scale on the Supreme Court of Canada. That said, this is not your first history-making moment. Just a few years ago, you became the first woman Chief Justice of what is now the Alberta Court of King's Bench. In preparing these remarks and reflecting on your achievements, I came across a speech by former Justice Bertha Wilson, made in 1990 at Osgoode Hall. Justice Wilson, as you know, was the first woman member of this esteemed court. She once expressed the hope that if women lawyers and judges, through their differing perspectives on life, can bring a new humanity to bear on the decision-making process, perhaps they will make a difference. And she added, perhaps they will succeed in infusing the law with an understanding of what it means to be fully human. You have been described to me by a judge who knows you as a real person. I see that as a high compliment. What better qualification and what better endorsement for a judge? This is in keeping with Justice Wilson's predicted infusion of understanding and humanity in our highest court, and thereby in our system of justice. It is just one step in an ongoing process of exploring diverse perspectives and putting people's human dignity at the heart of the justice system. Indeed, our life experiences shape us and guide us. Madam Justice, your own life experience is a wonderful illustration of this. As has been said, you grew up as a Francophone in Alberta, exposed to a rich French-Canadian culture, the language, the music, the literature. As a member of a minority language group in Alberta, a Francophone in a predominantly English common law jurisdiction, you bring another layer to your understanding of diversity in this country. En pratique privée, vous avez plaidé causes marquantes consonantes des droits linguistiques des minorités et la Charte canadienne des droits et libertés. It is significant that this celebration takes place on what we in Manitoba celebrate as Louis Riel Day, in recognition of another defender and champion of minority French linguistic rights and Indigenous rights in Canada. And as a deputy judge of the Supreme Court of the Yukon and the Supreme Court of the Northwest Territories, you've had the opportunity to examine important issues regarding these often overlooked communities in Canada. I'm also reminded of an interview you gave to the CBA a few years ago after you were appointed Chief Justice. You shared with readers that the most valuable tools you developed as a lawyer and later as a judge came from your experience as an undergrad philosophy student. You spoke of how philosophy fostered critical thinking and an ability to view problems as prisms to be examined from all angles. This perspective, you explained, minimizes the risk that details that might be overlooked offer valuable solutions. Et pourtant, Madame la juge Moreau, vous avez également la réputation d'être une femme d'action qui prend l'initiative pour trouver des solutions à des problèmes complexes. And so I appreciated your remark in that very same interview about how it takes discipline and self-awareness to pause before we act. Finally, I think you mirror society in another important way. People in your home province of Alberta and across the country with whom you have come into contact always mention your warmth, your empathy, and your sense of fun. In fact, I have it on good authority that you have an inexhaustible repertoire of popular songs, and that you have been known to lead sing-alongs with busloads of judges in tow. I think that bodes well for a harmonious court. My point is that kindness, warmth, and thoughtfulness are what I like to think of as important Canadian values. And that is another reason why your appointment is cause for celebration today. The other common theme in all the testimonials gathered is how you embody the very idea of a true public servant, your selfless dedication, your hard work and collegiality, your commitment to access to justice, and your innovation to improve its administration are all well noted. These qualities will benefit all Canadians now that you sit on the Supreme Court. We are very lucky to have you on this bench. Au nom de l'Association du barreau canadien, je tiens à vous féliciter, Madame la juge Moreau, et vous offrir mes meilleurs vœux de réussite. Merci. Thank you.
much. I would now like to ask the President of the Law Society of Alberta, Mr. Bill Ensby, to say a few words.
Good morning. Members of the Court, Justice Moreau, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be able to bring congratulations from the Law Society of Alberta and its 11,000 active members. I'm very pleased that the Supreme Court of Canada, like the Alberta courts, also honors new appointments with a personal ceremony that allows us to mark this special occasion with Justice Moreau's family and friends. And I'm pleased to be able to make a few remarks to help honor her appointment. A ceremony like this is somewhat unique. In most appointment ceremonies, we speak about what kind of judge the honoree will make, drawing upon their experiences in practice and in their personal life to help us with that projection. In this case, however, as we've heard, Justice Moreau's outstanding judicial career spans 3 decades, including 6 years as the Chief Justice of the Alberta Court of King's Bench. Previous speakers have outlined her many outstanding contributions in her career as a lawyer, along with those same contributions as a trial judge and later as Chief Justice. What I would like to focus on, particularly for those who don't know her well, are Mary's personal qualities and how they will immensely benefit those who appear before the court. I've enjoyed interacting with Mary over a number of years, building upon that relationship in my role as the President of the Law Society, even if that interaction was cut short by this appointment. She was kind enough to speak with me recently, and we had a lovely chat, and as a result, I can confirm that the stories I share today are at least mostly true. In addition to her excellence on the bench, I was able to personally observe Mary's leadership in action. In particular, as we've heard, the way she seamlessly guided our court through both the pandemic and then a number of ongoing infrastructure issues. She was definitely a steadying force through challenging times, and she's missed by our court. As you know, the position Mary currently occupies was announced last June. I don't know when she decided to apply, but it was immediately obvious to most lawyers and judges in the province that she was the ideal candidate. In fact, Associate Chief Justice Blair Nixon of our court, who is present today, recalls suggesting to Mary that she apply. Mary's response apparently was, "No, I like my job." Now, she eventually came around to realizing what the rest of us already knew, and this court is the better for it. Having had the opportunity to chat with both Mary and several of her friends, a few key themes emerged. The first is independence. Mary's excellence as a jurist goes without saying. Her friend Justice Paul Belzel of the Court of King's Bench, who is with us today, perfectly reflects the views of Mary's colleagues on the bench and within the bar, who universally described her as a hell of a trial judge, an exceptionally hard worker, and someone who, when she became chief, always had time for her judges, no matter how busy she was. One trait that shapes the way Mary approaches legal issues, and which makes her particularly well-suited to sit on this court, is her strong independent streak and her overriding belief in the independence of the judiciary. These views reflect the way Albertans view themselves. Mary notes that Albertans tend to push issues forward, pointing out that 3 of the 11 cases she has been involved in so far come out of Alberta, a pattern that she herself helped to create when successfully arguing several important French language cases before this court. The second theme is connection. A connector by nature, Mary is someone who prefers to build consensus over polarization. She has demonstrated this not only within Alberta, but also through her national and international work. The skill at building connections, which will continue to benefit this court, appears to be innate, perhaps stemming from her experiences growing up within a very large, close-knit family where she was one of 8 children. And Mary's sense of family clearly extends to her friends, many of whom are with us today, their connections to Mary, in most cases going back many decades. Justice Eric Macklin of our Court of King's Bench, who is with us today, is one of those people. He describes how we met Mary in the summer of 1976 by chance when he was part of a group who attended a movie together. In another coincidence, a few weeks later, he turned on the TV only to find Mary reading the news on the French channel. It became clear the two were destined to be friends when only a few weeks after that, Mary ended up a few seats away from him during the first day of law school. The pair teamed up for their first-year moot and have been fast friends ever since. Retired Alberta King's Bench Justice Adele Kent, who is familiar to this court and who has also joined us here today, and I'm sure you've noticed that pattern by now, is another member of Mary's Friends for Life circle. Adele was a couple of years ahead of Mary in law school, but really got to know her during their early years of practice when they were part of a group of young lawyers, largely doing criminal work. She described a trip taken by about 10 members of this crew, a rugged rafting trip on the Chilkoot River, known for its adrenaline-fueled intensity. And I just want to interrupt the story for a moment with a spoiler alert. Mary's absolute favorite film of all time is The Sound of Music. In fact, she told me that her office in Calgary was decorated as an ode to that film, and I'll let you take a moment to let your imagination fill in those details. Now, back to the death-defying river rafting caper. Adele tells me that Mary's family is extremely musical, and those genes appear to have been utilized by Mary in a rather unusual way. During calm periods on the river, Mary would stand up and spontaneously break into song. Cute soundtrack ditties, we'll call them, from, you guessed it, The Sound of Music. So, be forewarned, you'll know who the culprit is if within these hallowed halls they're suddenly filled with someone singing, "The hills are alive with the sound of music." and I considered singing that last line, and you're better off that I didn't. Finally, in a story that reveals that justice has and must always have a human face, I'd like to take you back to Mary's original judicial swearing-in ceremony in 1995, during which her husband, Peter Royal KC, had the good fortune of being able to speak as the then president of the Law Society of Alberta, and I'm sure that was a special thrill for both of them. At the time, their youngest child, Paul, was only 2 years old. In the middle of the ceremony, Paul was a little restless and was taken outside the courtroom. However, in Houdini-like fashion, he managed to escape the clutches of his nanny and snuck back in through the side door just as his father was speaking. Then, before anyone could react, he quickly moved past Dad and stood in front of the bench looking up at Mom. Then Justice Buzz McClung said to Paul, "Come on up here, young fella," and he did. And Mary then gave her remarks with her young son on her lap. Witnessing a 38-year-old female judge with a small child on her knee, I'm sure the court recognized that the times they were a-changin'. Now, I know that Paul is here today, and I've spoken with him, and he's assured us that he's promised to stay in his seat.
Don't want to ruin those robes.
I think he's a little big for sitting on the knee at this point. In conclusion, the entire Canadian justice system has been greatly strengthened by Mary's appointment. An intellectual force to be reckoned with, a truly inspiring Albertan, a kind-hearted and approachable, steadying force in challenging times, a tireless worker with a strong independent streak, a connector and consensus builder with an overriding belief in the independence of the judiciary. Mary, you are all of this and so much more. I am honored and so very pleased to bring congratulations from the legal profession through the Law Society of Alberta. Justice Moreau, we wish you continued success during this next stage of your long and distinguished judicial career. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Ensby. I now invite the President of the Federation of Law Societies of Canada, Ms. Erin Kleisinger, to address the Court.
Thank you, Madam Justice Moreau, Chief Justice Wagner, Justices of the Supreme Court, and distinguished guests. I have to say, as an Anglophone from Saskatchewan, I think I'm more nervous bringing my remarks in both official languages than I have been in the 2 times that I've had the privilege of appearing before this court. On behalf of the Federation of Law Societies of Canada, the National Association of Canada's 14 provincial and territorial societies that regulate the legal profession in the public interest, I want to express our heartfelt congratulations to you, Justice Moreau, and to your family as you take on this new role and the duties of Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada. It was my honor and great privilege to represent the Federation on the Independent Advisory Board for Supreme Court judicial appointments and to meet with you during the board's processes. It was evident from your application and in your discussions with the advisory board that you are a woman and jurist of exceptional talents. This appointment is a fitting recognition of your remarkable career, which is an inspiration to us all. Your appointment has been greeted with universal pride, not only in Alberta and across the Western provinces, but throughout the whole country. This is no small achievement. Il y a plusieurs raisons pour lesquelles vous faites l'unanimité, Madame la Juge. Votre prévenance et votre humilité caractérisent votre façon d'aborder le droit. Vous faites preuve d'une grande intelligence et d'un esprit juridique perspicace, étant connu pour l'approche pratique que vous adoptez dans le but de résoudre des problèmes juridiques. Aussi, au cours de votre carrière de plus de 30 ans, à titre de juge de première instance, votre attitude calme a toujours été un exemple à suivre et à se guider les plaideurs et les avocats, ainsi que vos pairs à la magistrature. En français, on appelle ça la force tranquille. Your ability to maintain composure under pressure with a steady hand was on full display during the pandemic. Undoubtedly, it was the last thing you expected to have to contend with as Chief Justice, but you acted, as we've heard, proactively and creatively to keep the courts running. One justice on the Court of Queen's Bench recalls that you were unflappable during those times. Not once did she see you lose your cool. That same justice also marveled at your infinite supply of energy and your heart, free of cynicism or despair. And she noted how it takes great personal sacrifice to do the extraordinary job that you did during those difficult times, always attuned to the real-world impact the pandemic had on litigants, court personnel, and members of the legal profession. Cette attitude témoigne de votre engagement inébranlable en faveur de la justice et de l'importance qu'il faut accorder au rôle crucial que nos tribunaux et en constitution doivent continuer de jouer. Il faut dire que personne n'en était étonné. As Chief Justice, and before that, you were a compassionate and empathetic leader who recognized the court's profound influence on people's lives. You knew the work of the courts must resonate with the realities that litigants face. Or to quote something you said before the House of Commons Committee on Justice and Human Rights, judges need to be intuitive to the needs of one's community, whether in the cities or in the more remote places, such as the Yukon or the Northwest Territories, where you served as a deputy judge. In this day and age, many of us are concerned that the fabric of trust that traditionally bound individuals to institutions is fraying. Thankfully, Canadians still express high levels of confidence in our Supreme Court. And I know Chief Justice Wagner has made it a priority to safeguard public trust in this institution. As one of your close collaborators put it, Madam Justice, the only way to turn the tide on erosion of trust is to earn it. She said, that's why Mary Moreau is exactly the sort of person we need on the court at this time. We've heard today about your personal warmth and your ability to connect with people on a human level, and how it can be a source of comfort and reassurance, a skill, as I understand it, that comes to you quite naturally. In the highest court of our land, where important decisions shape the course of our nation, the humane approach that you bring to guiding the development of the law will undoubtedly serve us very well, as will your many years of experience in the trial courts, where rulings of appellate courts and our highest courts are applied. Votre nomination à la Cour suprême du Canada marque la réussite d'une carrière remarquable, mais surtout elle témoigne de notre confiance à l'égard de vos talents exceptionnels. On behalf of the Federation of Law Societies of Canada and all of Canada's law societies, I offer my heartfelt congratulations to you and your family and wish you well as you begin this new and exciting chapter of your legal career. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite Ms. Dominique Hassé, President of the Advocate Society, to address the court.
Chief Justice, Minister Virani, Justices of the Supreme Court, Minister Amory, distinguished guests, Justice Moreau, and your family. En tant que présidente de la Société des plaideurs, je suis honorée et ravie de me joindre à vous pour féliciter l'honorable Marie Moreau pour sa nomination à la Cour suprême du Canada. Your appointment, Justice Moreau, as a jurist and judge of the highest caliber is cause for celebration. On behalf of the 6,000 members of the Advocate Society from coast to coast, I offer you our heartfelt congratulations. The Advocate Society's mission is to build a national community of advocates committed to excellence inside and outside of the courtroom. The Society advocates for a fair, equitable, accessible, and effective justice system. We are committed to being a welcoming, diverse, and inclusive society, and we strive for the highest standards of skill in all that we do. The Society's mission is lofty. It reflects an ideal for a justice system worthy of our country. And lofty and idealistic though the mission may be, all of the elements of the Society are embodied in you, Justice Moreau. Your appointment marks the first time in the Supreme Court's history that women have held a majority of the bench. This is a meaningful symbol at this moment in time. However, I know both you and I look forward to a day when the appointment of women to positions of power is no longer considered to be remarkable. On the other hand, you are, and always will be, remarkable. Vous avez fait preuve d'excellence dans la manière dont vous abordez vos fonctions judiciaires et dans votre dévouement à un système de justice juste, équitable, accessible et efficace. Vous êtes partisane de la diversité et de l'inclusion, et vous êtes un modèle de courtoisie et de collégialité. It has been said that excellence is never an accident. It comes from intent, effort, and skillful execution. You have demonstrated your excellence in myriad ways. We see it in your ability to build consensus, and I understand that some attribute this skill to your having negotiated among 8 siblings, and no doubt this skill will transfer directly to your new office. On voit votre excellence dans votre compassion, votre profonde compréhension du côté humain de vos jugements. Et même avant que vos décisions aient l'imprimatur officiel d'importance nationale, vous, Madame le juge Moreau, aviez soigneusement examiné les implications à long terme de vos décisions sur les individus concernés et sur la société dans son ensemble. We see your excellence reflected in your unparalleled work ethic for your entire career, including at the Alberta Court of King's Bench. As a member of the 6:45 a.m. club, the time when you and some of your colleagues arrived to work, you roll up your sleeves as a judge and did so as the chief administrator of your former court. You have not coasted for a single moment in your ascent. We see your excellence in your commitment to judicial education and to the ethical administration of justice in Canada and abroad. As Chief Justice of the Alberta Court of King's Bench, you understood that a court that is not accessible to citizens and that sits apart from the public can lose its legitimacy. And that has not been the case in your court. Your commitment to the openness of the courts and your transparency with the public and the bar fostered respect for the justice system. You have also been bold and innovative in your approach to addressing the pervasive delays in the justice system. For example, you pioneered initiatives to avoid wasted trial dates, to preserve resources with your have gavel, will travel strategy, and to streamline processes for civil and family actions. We trust that the years that you spent in and at the head of a trial court ground your perspective in the everyday realities faced by the people involved in litigation. Your immense trial experience will no doubt be of immense benefit to the Supreme Court. Madame la juge Moreau, vous connaissez l'importance de la diversité et de l'inclusion dans notre système judiciaire, et vous êtes partisane de leur croissance. Vous êtes passionné par la question des droits des minorités linguistiques. Parmi plusieurs de vos réalisations, vous avez cofondé l'Association des juristes d'expression française de l'Alberta. You have said that all Canadians should be able to see themselves reflected in their justice system in order to have faith in it. And that is true. It is equally important for Canadians to see excellent role models reflected in the leadership of our justice system. Justice Moreau, you are an inspiring role model for Canadians. Your contributions to the court will no doubt reflect your experiences as an outstanding jurist and judge, as a woman, as a member of a minority language and cultural group, as a working parent, and as a volunteer. Madame le juge Moreau, vous avez toujours traité les témoins avec dignité et respect, démontrant ainsi qu'ils et elles sont valorisés et que le processus judiciaire est équitable. Vous avez toujours été respectueuse envers le public que vous servez et envers ceux et celles avec qui vous travaillez. It is not surprising, therefore, that your colleagues of the Court of King's Bench confirm that you embody the qualities of the ideal judge of the highest court in the land. And when you received the call, they were at once elated and bereft, so much so that even now they walk by the door of your former office just hoping to catch a glimpse of what they call the ghost of their beloved Justice Moreau. And despite their linguistic facility in English et grâce à vous en français, your colleagues search in vain for adequate superlatives to describe you. They say excellent, unparalleled, extraordinaire, unique, exceptionnel, and that these words do not do you justice. I would return, as others have today, to a simple one that you have used, although not about yourself. Remarkable. Remarkable in all of the most important ways to enhance the honor of our justice system. Madame le juge Moreau, au nom de la Société des plaideurs, je vous félicite pour votre nomination et je vous souhaite à vous et à votre famille tous nos meilleurs vœux alors que vous assumiez les fonctions de cette charge distinguée. Merci.
Thank you, Ms. Hussey. C'est maintenant le temps pour notre nouvelle collègue de nous dire quelques mots. Alors, Madame la juge Moreau, la parole est à vous.
Would first like to assure the Chief Justice there will be no singing on the bench today. Le très honorable Richard Wagner, juge en chef du Canada, l'honorable Arif Virani, ministre de la Justice et procureur général du Canada, la très honorable Beverly McLaughlin, les juges actuels et à la retraite de la Cour suprême, sénatrice à la retraite Claudette Tardif, distingués invités, ministre de la Justice de l'Alberta, M. Amory, je tiens à remercier le Premier ministre du Canada pour le grand honneur de cette nomination, ainsi que le ministre Virani et tous les membres du comité consultatif présidé par l'honorable Wade McLaughlin qui ont évalué ma candidature pour ce poste. Le commissaire à la magistrature fédérale, Maître Marc Giroux, et les membres de son bureau m'ont beaucoup aidé dans les dernières étapes suivant ma nomination et je les remercie sincèrement. Je remercie aussi le juge en chef Wagner, les ministres Virani et Mickey Amory, et Maître Stefaniuk, Hensby, Kleisinger et Hussey pour leurs allocutions au nom des ministères et des organismes d'avocats qui contribuent à l'accès à la justice en Alberta et au Canada. J'espère être à la hauteur de vos éloges et de la confiance que vous avez exprimée en moi. I also wish to recognize the important contributions of previous justices of the Supreme Court of Canada, including the important contribution of my predecessor, retired Justice Russell Brown, to the evolution of the jurisprudence of this court. Each of my new judicial colleagues has been very welcoming, supportive, and encouraging, taking time to soften my landing in Ottawa, along with my hardworking and enthusiastic law clerks, Yasmin, Allison, Bradley, the court's administrative staff, and in particular, Kiria, my executive assistant, and Charles, my court attendant, who have gone out of their way to help settle me into my new office and new home. With all this support, I feel like I'm wrapped in a warm blanket, but that may also be the effect of wearing these ceremonial robes for the past hour. As I scan the gallery and the video screens and recognize those who support and confidence in me, put me in this chair, each of you shares with me the honor of joining Canada's highest court. J'ai fait mes études universitaires de premier cycle à la faculté Saint-Jean, maintenant le campus Saint-Jean de l'Université de l'Alberta, où j'ai pu poursuivre mes études en français, et j'en suis très reconnaissante. Turning next to my law school days, my University of Alberta law class was a close-knit group. I thank them for their warm wishes on my appointment to the court and Dean Billingsley for representing the University of Alberta Faculty of Law here today. As an associate lawyer with Frolic Irwin Rand in Edmonton, I was given plenty of elbow room by the firm's partners in my early years of practice to build experience in criminal, civil, and language rights litigation, for which I'm also grateful. My first and only law partner, Richard Rand, could not be here today. I learned much about how to practice law from Richard. Most importantly, that lawyers should strive to act as a guide, not a messenger for their clients, blending compassion with a healthy dose of objectivity. My appointment to the Court of Queen's Bench of Alberta, as it then was, at the age of 38 years and after 14 years in private practice, was met with a few misgivings by some of my new judicial colleagues. Entering the judge's coffee room on my second day in the saddle, while a senior colleague was expressing his concerns about my age, my professional experience, the only reply I could muster was, well, as my dear mother used to say, the proof is in the pudding. And it's been my motto ever since. I want to recognize my over 100 judicial colleagues, justices and applications judges on the Court of King's Bench of Alberta, an extremely hardworking, dedicated, and supportive group. In addition to handling heavy caseloads and writing decisions in a variety of areas of the law, each of them contributes in many ways to the administration of justice, from access to justice projects to all manner of court committee work, and as regular contributors to public, legal, and judicial education. I've relied on many of my judicial colleagues for their sage advice over the last close to 30 years. In the case of Justice Eric Macklin, who's with us today, my first-year law school mooting partner, as we've heard, and my King's Bench colleague for over 20 years, which makes us friends for over 47 years, I could always count on our regular office visits, which I already miss, for a restorative dose of his characteristic dry wit. Thanks for your friendship, Eric. I will also miss my next-door neighbor for several years in the Edmonton Courthouse, Justice Paul Belzil, who's also here with his wife Giselle, who only recently took on supernumerary status several years after his eligibility date. Such is his commitment to public service. Thanks for your constant support, Paul. Associate Chief Justice Ken Nielsen, currently acting Chief of the Court of King's Bench, could not be here today. Ken has been a huge support through times of unprecedented budget cuts, then COVID emergency measures and resulting case backlogs, then electrical outages that affected operations in our Edmonton Courthouse for an extended period of time. Associate Chief Justice Nielsen met these challenges with his characteristic positive outlook. When asked how the court was managing these various crises, he could be heard to quip, "Just living the dream," or "You can't make this stuff up." He did not and does not let serious challenges get in the way of practical solutions. I was supported throughout my term as a Chief Justice by a group of highly skilled King's Bench Court staff, including our hardworking staff lawyers, judicial assistants, and supported in the executive branch of government by provincial ministers of justice, deputy and assistant deputy justice ministers, court managers, and the clerks sitting in our courtrooms across the province. I also relied heavily on a strong executive team in Calgary and Edmonton, led by the court's Executive Director and General Counsel, Corinne Jamieson, KC, heading a team that includes Daryl Ruther, Heather Manweiler, Carrie Stevenson, Crystal Fuller, and Jeanette Goldenberg. I'm so honored that they made the trip to Ottawa, all of them, joined by Associate Chief Justice Blair Nixon. I was delighted to attend Associate Chief Justice Nixon's formal swearing-in about 10 days ago in Calgary with Justice Sheila Martin. Blair has moved easily and confidently into his leadership role in the court's administration. Je veux ajouter un mot spécial aux membres du comité directeur sur l'emploi du français et des services d'interprètes de la Cour du banc du Roi, présidé par les juges Anna Loparco et Michel Bourque et appuyé par l'avocate conseil Julie Laliberté. Cette équipe, qui incluait aussi la juge Jane Fagnan avant sa nomination à la Cour d'appel de l'Alberta, a fait progresser à pas géants l'accès aux services de la Cour dans les 2 langues officielles. Grâce à leurs efforts, les consignes sur place et électroniques annoncent l'offre de services de la Cour dans les 2 langues officielles. Des formulaires en ligne expédient le traitement des demandes de services de la Cour en français et la politique sur l'utilisation du français à la Cour assure la continuité de l'accès à la justice dans les 2 langues officielles. Le résultat de ces offres actives de services n'est pas du tout surprenant. Une demande croissante pour les audiences en français, tant en matière civile, familiale que criminelle. C'est mon espoir sincère que le Comité français de la Cour du banc du Roi continuera son bon travail dans ce sens. Je salue les efforts des juristes franco-albertains d'aujourd'hui et d'autrefois. Parmi eux, mon frère Maître Jean Moreau, qui ont fondé en 1990 l'Association des juristes d'expression française de l'Alberta. Cet organisme continue à contribuer activement à la vitalité de la communauté franco-albertaine en assurant son accès aux services juridiques en français. I was fortunate to have been schooled in the challenges of running a busy court by the now retired Chief Justice of Alberta, Catherine Fraser, with whom I worked closely during her last 5 years in that role. Stepping into the shoes of the former Chief Justice of Alberta was no small order. However, the appointment in November 2022 of the Honorable Ritu Kular as the province's current Chief Justice, who's with us in the courtroom, ensured that our Alberta courts continue to be in very capable hands. Chief Justice Kular's management style reflects her belief in consensus building and her strongly held values of impartiality, equality, and fairness. Ritu, please forgive me for my rather hasty departure. I thank you, and recently appointed Chief Justice of the Alberta Court of Justice, the Honorable Jim Hunter, for attending today. My thanks also to my former colleagues on the Canadian Judicial Council, who are here today, and all the past and current members of Council with whom I worked for 6 years. The Council is an extremely dedicated group of court leaders working diligently to increasing access to justice in all corners of the country. Je suis la 6e d'une famille originalement de 8 enfants. 4 de mes frères et sœurs, Paul, Jean, Anne et Joseph, ainsi que conjoints et plusieurs neveux et nièces, sont dans la salle d'audience. Je les remercie tous d'avoir voyagé de tous les coins du pays pour assister à la cérémonie. Je salue aussi mon frère Marc et ma sœur Hélène et leurs conjoints qui sont avec nous par vidéo. Notre sœur Jeanne, très récemment décédée, nous manque beaucoup, ainsi que nos parents, Joseph et Marie Moreau, qui étaient si fiers de toute leur famille, et je ressens leur présence aujourd'hui. My husband, Peter Royal Casey, he likes to be called Casey, and our sons, Pierre and Paul, are also in the gallery, while our eldest son, Joe, and daughter, Emily, her husband, Chris, and our very first grandchild, 7-week-old Jackson, are watching on screen from Alberta. They're right in the corner there. I think Jackson actually has been catching up on his sleep. Each of our children has taken a different career path from their parents to pursue their own passions. Peter and I are very proud of each of you, and we're very happy to welcome Emily's husband, Chris, into our family. I'm particularly thrilled to have been invited into my kids' electronic chat group, which produces a seemingly endless parade of cartoons, YouTube videos, and Instagram moments. While a special honor, I'm quite content to observe from the sidelines. Each of you and now little Jackson are the loves of my life. Speaking of which, Peter and I have been married for 43 years. Peter's been my biggest cheerleader since I became a member of the Alberta Bar shortly after our wedding. Now retired, Peter made a significant contribution to the administration of justice in Alberta in his 47 years as a criminal defense lawyer, which included 36 years as a sessional lecturer at the University of Alberta's Faculty of Law, 9 years of service as a Law Society of Alberta bencher, then as its president, and a career-long commitment to mentorship of young lawyers. Peter strongly supported my application for this position, aware of the impact an appointment to this court would have on our family life. Thanks to you, Peter, to all our kids, and also to my extended family members on both the Moreau and the Royal side, including Peter's sister Pat and her husband Barry, who are here today for sharing this day with me. I want to recognize some dear friends in the gallery, my lifelong friend Mary Ritchie, who interrupted a vacation in sunnier southern climes to be here today, and retired Justice Adele Kent, a dear friend to me and Peter since our early law practice days, and whose legal and judicial career have been models of excellence. Thanks also to my friends and my former colleagues at the bar and on the bench for traveling to Ottawa to share this ceremony with me. It's been an exciting first 3 months on the job. I am in awe of all my new colleagues, led in the court by Chief Justice Wagner. Each of you is extremely hardworking and deeply committed to the protection and promotion of the rule of law and to the pursuit of justice. American lawyer Wendell Phillips, who dedicated his life to the abolition of slavery and to social reform, remarked 1.5 centuries ago that law is nothing unless close behind it stands a warm, living public opinion. The passage of time hasn't eroded this observation, as the Right Honourable Beverly McLaughlin, during her tenure as Chief Justice of Canada, described public confidence in the judiciary as a cornerstone of the rule of law. To earn and retain the confidence of the public in our justice system, our laws must be respectful of human rights and be administered and interpreted through a fair, open, timely, and accessible process by a competent, ethical, independent, and impartial judiciary, and should reflect the diversity of the communities it serves. I've been honored to participate for several years in international projects through which Canadian judges with our unique bilingual and bijural justice system have provided support to the judiciary in several countries, assisting in drafting codes of judicial conduct and ethical guidelines, suggesting ways to increase efficiencies in court administration, and proposing new avenues of public and media outreach. These international programs have been an enriching experience for me and my fellow Canadian judges who've been fortunate to participate in these exchanges. Retournant au Canada, l'arrêt Sparrow de cette Cour, rendu il y a presque 25 ans, a reconnu le rôle important du paragraphe 35.1 de la Constitution comme engagement solennel envers les peuples autochtones. L'évolution de la jurisprudence depuis Sparrow démontre le rôle important des tribunaux dans la protection des droits autochtones. Je suis très contente que la Cour du banc du roi de l'Alberta a récemment embauché une conseillère juridique autochtone qui aidera la Cour à mieux servir ces communautés. La confiance du public dans nos tribunaux dépend aussi d'une bonne communication avec le public, un objectif qui me tenait à cœur dans mon rôle de juge en chef. Je suis fière d'être maintenant membre de la Cour suprême, qui fait de grands efforts pour démystifier son travail, son site web compréhensif, ses outils d'information pour les plaideurs non représentés, ses résumés des arrêts de la Cour dans un langage facile à comprendre, sa diffusion électronique de ses audiences, les conférences de presse du juge en chef avec les médias et la tenue récente des audiences de la Cour en dehors de la capitale nationale, à Winnipeg en 2019, à Québec en 2022, en sont des exemples. Je serai contente de pouvoir participer aux activités en planification pour le 150e anniversaire de la Cour en 2025. Je suis fière aussi d'être parmi une majorité de femmes à la Cour pour la première fois dans son histoire. Comme le juge en chef Wagner l'a souvent bien exprimé, tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes devraient pouvoir se reconnaître dans leur système de justice. La justice ne devrait pas amener la personne qui y fait face à se sentir en marge ou exclue. I want to conclude with a message to young lawyers and law students who are just starting on their professional paths. My mother, Marie, described new challenges as opportunities waiting just on the other side of that door she always encouraged us to crack open. I think that Kenyan-born British director Gorinda Chaddha of Bend It Like Beckham fame expressed it well when she said, "When a door is ajar, you need to open it fully. And once you are in that room, you need to see what other doors there might be and where they might lead." Thanks to all who encouraged me to crack those doors open. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Madame la juge Moreau. Je remercie également tous les intervenants qui ont souligné aujourd'hui les nombreuses réalisations de la juge Moreau et qui ont généreusement partagé avec nous diverses anecdotes à son sujet. Tous témoignent de vos aptitudes exceptionnelles et de votre engagement remarquable envers le service public. I thought I heard someone singing "The Hills Are Alive" with the sound of music the other day. So now I know that it was not my imagination. Canada has one of the best judiciaries in the world. Today, we can be especially proud to have Justice Moreau join us as a member of the Supreme Court of Canada. Je remercie tous ceux et celles qui sont joints à nous. La séance est maintenant levée. Merci.